Hey guys, Shanna here. Welcome back to Making Everyday Magic. Today, I want to share with you my experience with a husband who didn't want to homeschool. So I have been getting some questions a bit lately about whether or not I would be willing to do a Q&A video. And I think what I would like to start doing is maybe at the end of every video answering one of your questions. So if you guys will head over to my Instagram, and I will link that below. Send me a DM with your question and I will try to start including them at the end of these videos. And then once I hit 1,000 subscribers and my 4,000 watch hours, I would like to do a Q&A video, maybe compile them all together and have them all in one spot. So before we go any further, guys, please scroll down, hit that big red subscribe button, help me reach my goals, turn on the bell for notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. As I said, guys, my personal experience is that my husband did not want to homeschool. Neither of us have experience with homeschooling. I wasn't homeschooled. He definitely wasn't homeschooled. I mean, we weren't. From when our oldest daughter was pretty young, I would say a year earlier, I really just knew that I wanted to homeschool her. We are the kinds of parents who really always fostered an educational environment. We've always not pushed her, but encouraged her to learn and grow and engage. And possibly because of that, possibly just because of the type of child that she is, the type of person she is, the type of learner that she has just always been ahead of her age group. She found things interesting that other kids maybe didn't, and we would feed into that, as much as we possibly could as parents. Based on her and the things that we did see pretty early, I knew that I wanted to homeschool. My husband wasn't on board, and we'll get to his reasonings in a minute, but I'm going to start with my reasons for why I wanted to. So my reasons were that Amelia was ahead. She was ahead of her peers. She was ahead of where she should be. Her preschool teachers did tell me quite frequently how far ahead she was, how she was a joy to have in class, how she could sit still and pay attention, how she knew her letters and her numbers very early. Again, we worked with her. That was a goal. That was very important for us as parents to do that. And so because of that, we knew she was ahead. So I knew that I, if at all possible, would like to keep her that way. I also knew, based on the things that we had done with her, that she does learn pretty easily and retain things pretty well in unconventional learning situations. So no, I haven't been in elementary since, 30 years ago, something crazy. But based on my own experience, I knew that Amelia learns in just kind of different ways. She can watch a video on something and retain all of that knowledge. She can play a game and learn to read that way. I mean, that's just the way that she worked. And so I knew that a less traditional learning environment would very much benefit her. Something that wasn't 30 kids in a classroom with a teacher, something that was less workbooky and more hands-on. So I knew, just as her mom, that learning in a different style would be a great asset for her. And as her parent, I wanted to be able to provide her with the ways that she was going to learn best, the ways that she would find the most entertainment and excitement from learning, because learning is such an important thing throughout your life. And both my husband and I do value that very much. I also have some kind of unique experiences. I am energetic. I am much. I am not somebody who likes to sit still. I don't nap. I like to get up early. I, probably under the right circumstances would have been ADD, some of those things. I absolutely can focus. I absolutely can manage these things. But I think in the wrong set of circumstances, my life could have gone very differently based on my love to chat and move and things like that. So I know that when I was younger, I was actually taken out of kind of general population there in public school, and I was put into a gifted and talented program, accelerated learning, things like that, where the learning styles are a little bit different. It's more projects and hands-on, more in-depth things like that. My younger brothers, however, they're twins and they are boys, and they were not provided the same kind of accommodating situation. So I could never sit still and kept talking, and I was put in the gifted and talented program. My younger brothers could not sit still and kept talking, and my parents were encouraged to seek out medical intervention and to medicate them, which they did for a smidge. So I know that given very similar styles of behavior, the path chosen can greatly affect the trajectory of life there. And I am totally biased against it. I really am. And that's based on my own experience and the things that I have seen in my own personal life, things I've seen firsthand. There's no part of me that wanted that for my children. And my children are busy. Amelia was wide awake as soon as she was born and has stayed that way. My in-laws have told me how busy my kids are, and they really are. Both of them quit napping really young. Both of them, my late walker was 10 months. They are busy. They are go hard kiddos. And so, we stay busy. But those are those kinds of traits that when certain people see them, they're going to identify them as a negative, whereas we've always embraced them as a positive, and we wanted to keep it that way in our home. Something else that we've seen is we do have a few kiddos in the family, kind of extended family, who are a little bit older, who have gone into public school, and a large percentage of those kids are medicated for behavioral issues. I'm jaded against it. I really am. I completely understand that there are needs, but I feel like it's a bit overused, or we need new ways to handle these things. So I didn't want to put my kid in a similar situation. I just didn't, especially if we could avoid it and we could homeschool, tailor-make an educational situation that would be best suited for our girl. Started bringing this up to my husband pretty early, and he understandably was not on board. We were not homeschooled. We didn't know anyone who did it. The only people that I knew who homeschooled from my hometown were the bad kids who had behavioral issues, who'd been kicked out of school. That's, of course, the only reason you would do that. Or you were kind of religiously weird, and so therefore your kids thought school was too worldly and you couldn't go. There is never any amount of homeschooling, exposure to homeschooling that any of us went through, either of us went through, that was a good and positive thing. So I do understand his reservations to that. Also, we bought our house because it's in a great school district. We did this on purpose with the plans to send our children to public school because the schools are great. That doesn't mean in my eyes, it just didn't mean that it was right for her. So my husband is pretty conservative. I would say I am the craziest thing he's ever done. Choosing to marry me has bucked every amount of norm he's ever had. His concerns were incredibly valid. He's concerned that we're not educators. We're not. We don't know it all. Not that anyone does, but we especially don't know what we should be teaching or not teaching. We do both work. He was very concerned that this was going to be an endeavor that I put on myself, that it would be honestly too much. There's too much going on. I'm a small business owner. And again, that's understandable. He also had those big questions, the same questions you're going to get as a homeschooler. What about college? What about SATs? How will she learn to take a test? What about socialization? These are all really valid questions. And as you know, they are easily answered. But at the time, I didn't really have all that information. I hadn't done all my research yet. So he said, why don't we? Because as school age got closer and closer every year, because we started her at 18 months, in a Mother's Day Out program, and it was 2 times a week. So it was Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so every year, if we're going to progress and go toward public schooling, I felt like it was only fair to increase her days a week to kind of like step her into going full-time 5 days a week. And so we reevaluated every year, and every year we didn't add a day. And so it came down because we did, guys, this conversation was low and slow. We talked about this for years. This is not a decision that we rushed into. I understand that there are plenty of people out in the world who don't understand it. There's a lot less people who don't understand it this year because, man, people understand. But there are a lot of people, especially in our own personal lives, who do not understand the decisions that we made, probably thinking that we rushed into them. I assure you, we talked about this for years. We started this conversation early, and I started doing my research. So Paul said, why don't we put her in kindergarten? Because we did pre-K through her Mother's Day Out program. Why don't we put her in kindergarten and see how it goes? If it doesn't go well, then we'll pull her out and we'll try homeschooling. And so I flipped that and I said, if we're going to try homeschooling, kindergarten's going to be one of the easiest years. I would hate to wait and try this later. If we're going to do something that's not going to work, it's going to be best if we try that in kinder. So I said, why don't we try homeschooling? And if it doesn't work, then we'll put her in. So as we started having this conversation, as we started having this dialogue, we came up with some parameters that we knew were going to keep us on track with this journey. Something that we could both agree on. Mine and my husband's relationship is very much built on talking things out. We don't tend to yell at each other. We don't fight on it. I like to say we're both kind of hyper logical people. And so we will come at it with facts. We will present facts to each other. So I knew if I was going to get him on board at all, I needed to come locked and loaded, knowing things, knowing where to get the answers, knowing the information, and then knowing what we didn't know. So I started researching like crazy. Something that's very important to me, as you guys know, if you've been here for any period of time, was going to be a secular education. I wanted to maintain an education that was independent of being based on religious principles. I wanted to keep something that was going to, include evolution and something that would take her and carry her well through life. Something that was going to be more science-backed, more factually accurate. Those things are very important to myself. Those things were also very important to my husband. So simply finding anything homeschool related that was secular. Guys, this struggle is hard. So the first hurdle that I had to battle was finding a homeschool curriculum that was secular. Guess what? There's 1,010,000 options for homeschooling, like grade 3 and up. There's all these like virtual schools and all kinds of things for homeschooling, like 3rd grade and up. But guess what? They ain't squat when you're starting in kinder, guys. It was so hard to find anything at all secular starting in kinder. Now, because this was my crazy idea, it was my, responsibility to come with all the facts. It was my responsibility to come with the burden of proof that this was one possible, doable, and desirable. So I finally found Texas Tech University ISD, which is, it is fully accredited through the state. It is a full Texas State qualified diploma program. It is distance-based learning. Real textbooks. It is secular-based. You have counselors, you have teachers at your disposal, and it's great. If you would like any more information on that, I will link that right up here because it served us well. Once we found it, it was the most desirable thing that we had found up to that point. And it really gave us our training wheels. It really helped me to get my husband on board to say, look, this is essentially you get all the perks and benefits of going to public school, right? So you get all of the accolades and the credits and the check marks in life of going to a public school, but you're doing it at home. So I've likened it very many times to homeschooling with training wheels. It gives you that option to get your feet wet without having 100% of the responsibility of coming up with the things. So we actually set up a phone call with the people from Texas Tech. We both got on the phone call. Paul had typed up a whole list. It was like a half dozen or a dozen questions about, just how it works. And the very kind counselors there at Texas Tech sat on the phone with us and answered all of our questions. It happened to be, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was literally when Harvey was hitting us. And so we had like a baby that was like, gosh, I don't even know, like a month old or 2 months old. And we had like a hurricane just bearing down, and it was flooding, and Paul was home because he couldn't physically make it to work. It was crazy. But they sat on the phone with us and they answered all of our questions, and it made me feel great. And it made him feel confident enough in our abilities to do this that we did decide to jump in and start. Now, one of the benefits of the Texas Tech program is that you can start at 5 years old. So Amelia's birthday is actually the end of March. So we couldn't start like public school. She wouldn't have started kindergarten until that fall. But we could start the Texas Tech program as soon as she turned 5. So that's what we did. And it actually gave us a whole semester before we would have put her in public school. So we were not delaying, and we had a full semester of trying it out before we really had to make a decision. So we did it. And one of the things that we've agreed to and we've continued to do is we reevaluate our homeschool decisions, make sure we're on track, make sure we're making the right decisions, make sure everyone's where they should be as far as happiness, grade levels, getting what they need out of homeschool every 6 months. So every semester, essentially. And so at the end of that first semester, we agreed, like, all right, let's finish out this year. And so we did. And then at the end of the year, it's like, all right, well, we had kind of started feeling by that point, like maybe it wasn't the best fit, again, because they use the public school standards and the public school curriculums. And we had no say in what the curriculum choices were, just none, because you bought the package and you did the diploma program. So you did what you were told. And so we had started feeling like it wasn't a great fit. Well, after the halfway through first grade, we really, really hard started looking at some of the other options. And then by the end of first grade, just knowing, her end of year exams and things like that, like we just knew that it was not what we wanted. And by this point we'd done it 2 years and we felt really confident in our abilities. Paul was really concerned. We were both very concerned about what we felt was kind of lacking in math and language arts and things. Just lower standards than we had hoped for and expected. And so I kept searching around and kept digging. And so I finally found the Timberdoodle kits. And they do offer non-religious kits. And it was another kind of big, bring all my facts to the table and hope for the best. And I proposed the idea of going totally rogue and fully unaccredited and withdrawing her from the Texas education system and doing this on our own. And that's what we did. After doing tons of research, looking at the kits, looking at the things that were included, Paul agreed that, you know what, we can try it. Not only has it served us so much better, the cost of the Timberdoodle kits are honestly, it is less than half the cost for the full year than for the full year at Texas Tech, which is a public school program. I don't have to get exams proctored and we don't have to do the standardized testing. Granted, we're rogue, we're fully unaccredited. So no, we're not on track to have a Texas high school diploma, but we've grown and we've learned and we know so many homeschool families now. We have such an unbelievable support network for the educational path that we've chosen. We know people with experience. We know where to get those answers, and we feel confident in our abilities as parents to educate our children. This has been a long long road, years and years in the making. Amelia's 8 years old, guys, 8.5, and we've probably been at this since, 7.5 years. So if you and your spouse are not on the same page where homeschooling is concerned, and I've seen this a lot in the homeschool Facebook groups, people who are ready to throw in the towel with virtual schooling, but their spouses aren't necessarily on board with choosing to homeschool, I can tell you, do your research, come with the facts. Don't try not to get super, super passionate and involved with it. Research all of your options. Reach out to people who have been in the same spots that you've been in. And if you've found this channel, you're already doing better than I did for a very long time, because there's not enough secular voice out there. As you guys know, I scream that from the rooftops every chance I get. And I have to tell you, do not do this if the people who parent your child aren't on board. So if that's you and a spouse, if that's you and an ex-spouse, if that's you and a partner, if that's you and grandma and grandpa, the people who have a large role in the caring and keeping of your children should have some input. It's going to be easiest for everyone if you get your entire squad, your whole team, your entire tribe on board. It will help. I give an incredible amount of shout out to my wonderful husband, who every time I've approached him with a crazy idea, he usually initially says no, but then he comes around and he softens up and he listens to what I have to say, and he'll get on board with helping me do the research and helping me find the answers. And he usually comes around and can see what I'm trying to show him, and whether or not we'll agree on it, he at least will hear me out. And that's led to some really amazing things in my life, because he's been patient, communicative, and supportive of what crazy ideas I've thrown before him. And one of the absolute best things that we've ever done is homeschooling our children. I can tell you it has been, it's been hard, and we've had some struggles, but we found our path and we found our groove, and it's been amazing. And I'm absolutely certain that he would agree with you. We didn't have any doubts about continuing to use our Timberdoodle kits again this year. And it's been a crazy experience. It's been so educational. It's been really great. But it did all start with us being on two different sides of that coin. So if you and your group, your tribe that helps you raise those babies, if you're not on the same page, there's still hope. Do your research, get your facts together, and come in knowing what you're talking about. It can be hard when you're not on board, not on the same page. But my situation is absolutely proof that you can get there, and it's wonderful. We have homeschooled. Amelia went through pre-K in her Mother's Day Out program, and then we have homeschooled ever since. So this is our 4th year of homeschooling, and we have added our 2nd child just this year. So it can be done, and it can be really great. If you found any of this helpful, entertaining, or informative, please scroll down, hit that big red subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks, guys.